Joining us from Oklahoma City, member of the Senate Appropriations Committee and the Select Committee on Intelligence, Republican Senator James Lankford. And Mike Barnicle's here as well.
So let me ask the Senator the important question of the morning. Have you seen the new Star Wars trailer, Senator?
You know what? I saw the Star Wars trailer just on your show earlier, but that's all I've seen so far.
It's very
That's probably enough.
I do remember standing in line with my mom back in the 1970s to watch the very first Star Wars movie the very first day. So,
you know, it's very interesting. I was telling my mom this, and she didn't remember, but
nice.
I went to see the first Star Wars with my mom. It's pretty interesting.
Really?
I guess it's like mothers going, well, I'm going to try to relate to my son.
I was with my brothers, but I left.
I guess so.
Richard Haas's mom, when she wanted to relate with him, would talk about Pacific trade agreements.
Yes, she had maps out.
Yeah, it's very boring
pointers.
in the Haas household. All right, so anyway, Senator, thank you so much for being with us. We've got so much to talk about. I want to start, though, with the conversation we had with Richard about ISIS. It appears that ISIS is still on the march, moving towards Ramadi. What do we do?
They're still in the march. It's also the time for war during that area. We remember a lot of the battles go in cycles in that zone, and so that they'll dial up and down. It is the springtime. It is the time that a lot of the battle happens in that area, and they're moving unchecked through areas. Syria obviously can't do anything about it. We're trying to defeat Assad. I hope at this point that we're taking an aggressive movement towards Assad, as well as what's happening in ISIS in Syria. But basically, ISIS can move unchecked in Syria at this point, so they can still move back and forth. We have to be able to take the battle to ISIS in Syria if we're ever going to be able to take this seriously.
Senator, let's talk about the neighboring country, Iran, and the proposed deal with the United States, and 5 other countries are opposed to the nuclear deal. Tell us why.
Yeah, my key issue right now, I'm waiting for the final details of it, but I can tell you the framework that's come out, I have real concerns on. The UN several years ago came out and said that Iran shouldn't have the capacity to actually enrich uranium. We are apparently agreeing on 5,000 centrifuges, and the other remaining centrifuges wouldn't be removed from the country. They would be left in Iran, apparently taken apart and put with tape over them that says do not cross, with people checking on it occasionally, but they still have thousands of centrifuges that are available to them. We're talking about releasing over $100 billion in money back to Iran, a country that is actively promoting Hamas and Hezbollah, that has just organized a coup in Yemen to take over Yemen. The American people and the people in Oklahoma just do not trust this administration. And I'm not meaning the Obama administration, I mean the administration, the regime that's in Iran to be able to actually hold to their side of the bargain.
Richard.
Senator, I understand the concerns about the agreement, but given that we are where we are, if the United States unilaterally were to say we're not going ahead, or Congress were to vote it down and override and sustain override a presidential veto, do you think that we would be able to keep sanctions in place, that the rest of the world would still be with us, or would we be seen as the problem?
Well, I think there'd be a mix of that, actually. You've got different countries that say, we've already started deals. We're going to just keep pressing on with those deals. Some of those started a year ago when we started these conversations saying we're going to release sanctions, so they started those contracts. Others would move with us. We've seen already when the United States says, if you do business with XYZ, we won't allow your banks to do business with us. Being the world's currency matters. And so that they will pull back and say, okay, we're not going to do business as long as the Americans say they won't do business with us if we do business with Iran. So it would have an impact. Now it would be a weakened impact. Obviously, Russia is talking about sending defensive missiles now to Iran. Folks are trying to get to oil. It's a very ironic thing to me that we're actively negotiating for Iran to be able to sell their oil on the world market, and we still can't get American oil on the world market.
Senator, it's Willie Geist, an issue a little bit closer to home. I know this weekend you all in Oklahoma are going to mark the 20th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. I think there's no one in this country who doesn't remember where he or she was when that terrible news came across 20 years ago. What are your thoughts as we approach this anniversary?
Yeah, Willie, it's actually very interesting. With it being 20 years ago, you talk about no one in this country doesn't remember. It's very ironic that for those of us that do remember it extremely well, we lose track of the fact that there's a whole generation that does not remember, because it was 20 years ago. If you're about 25 years old or younger, you have no real recollection of that time period at all. And so we come back again to remember, as we do in Oklahoma City every single year on the anniversary. We gather at the memorial site, we pause, we read the 168 names, and we remember the first responders, remember the families, remember the survivors, and those that were lost. We think it's extremely important, and this year we have a special emphasis on engaging on acts of service, especially the people you disagree with. So why can't we reach out to people we disagree with, engage in those conversations, and try to do acts of service for those individuals and set a standard for the nation as we set 20 years ago on how we're going to respond to hatred and violence?
Senator James Lankford, thank you so much for that, and thanks for being on today.
Thank you, Senator, so much.
You bet. Glad to be with y'all. Thanks.
Still ahead, angry